Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 158. Hopefully you are having a great holiday season and not, having the blues, but we're going to cheer you up on this New Year's version. You can tell because I actually have a 23 behind me. 2023 is upon us. Hard to believe, but it is rolling along. And with me, as always, is the ever lovely Sandra. Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing today? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And Sandra's wearing some bling and she's wearing,
That's right.
new things and she's all ready and, so we're ready for the new year. So also I should remind everybody about how Raging Verbalist works. I don't dive into politics, try to stay a little bit away from that. But we talk about things that I find interesting and other people find interesting. So how can you participate? How can you put your 2 cents in? Well, you can go to Facebook group, which is the Position to Win book group, which is of course my book, and get in there and you can ask questions and put some stuff up there and Sandra will pick them up. So be nice, not naughty. Also, we can go to you can go to YouTube, which is where you're probably watching this now, and of course hit the like and subscribe and notification, and you can always go to positiontowinbook.com, and check out what we have. All right. So, Sandra, what are we talking about today on this eve of the end of 22?
All right, so it's all about New Year's. So does New Year's have any true significance or is it just a made-up date?
Well, I think that the significance of it is that as humans, we try to figure out how to deal with increments of time. There's a cycle, right? Every 24 hours or so, the sun and the moon and the stars and all of that. And, calendars kept getting kind of put together. Now there was a lot of imprecision. I always love when people say, well, some ancient culture had a more accurate calendar. Okay, but we're not using that one right now. Other cultures do have, their own calendars. I mean, there's the Hebrew calendar and then there's the Chinese calendar, but we're dealing with our own calendar. So in some ways, is it a made up date? I guess, but it also means that we've kind of like gotten to that point where we've rotated around the big ball in the sky. So 365 plus a little bit more. That's why we end up with leap years and all of that kind of oddity to make up that quarter of a day that we miss every year. And then we fix it, we correct it. So it is kind of a made up date, but no, it is not, because lots of things end, pretty soon. And when they end, got to get your business wrapped up. And that's in a sense a real date, no matter what you want to philosophically think about it.
Right. Why do so many New Year's resolutions fail so quickly?
So I think people kind of pool this stuff up, all these things that they are not happy about. Maybe they want to lose a few pounds or change a bad habit or, instill a new habit. And whether that's, getting out and exercising more or, stop something like smoking or, moderation or whatever that is. So I think that most of these resolutions fail, from my experience, is lack of one thing is commitment. But commitment alone doesn't get you there. You got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're kind of doomed. It's not going to work out, because what are you going to do? You're going to wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do something different. Now, habits are formed ever so comfortably. And I say comfortably because you start doing something and then the next day you do it again, next day you do it again. And before you know it, it becomes this habit, annoying or otherwise. And we have those for a reason, which is it's all part of how we learned as we were growing up. So this stuff takes place, and now we are marching along, and we're going, okay, I don't want this habit. I don't like this, whatever I've been doing. Especially as we grow older, we notice things about ourselves. And so we got this kind of self-awareness. We're not happy with something, but they don't spend the time. We don't spend the time to do 2 very important things. You have to plan what that new behavior is going to look like. And number 2, make a commitment, and you're going to have to stick to it. Even when it's not fun to stick to it, you're going to have to stick to it, because if you don't, then it's going to get blown up. And this happens a lot. I'll give everybody a little bonus tip. I never start a New Year's resolution on the first day of the year. Just it's too much pressure. Oh my gosh, I got to start doing this now. I don't know if I want to do that. So I always started on January 2nd for me. That works the best, and it has worked for years. So if you're going to do a New Year's resolution, my advice is to make sure that you just push it off one more day, and then you get your stuff organized and you do it. And the final piece that we have, planning, commitment, is that you got to have it written down. If it's not written down, it's just written in the wind, because once your breath goes out and all those words, it's not like a little balloon that happens like in a cartoon or something. There's no closed captioning on life. You got to write it down for that to happen.
All right. Have you ever made a New Year's resolution and had it stick? And if yes, what is it?
So I've had a few of them that I've done, which changed the course of my life in a very positive way. And I've got a bunch that didn't make it. By the way, that's one of the biggest things is you should probably forgive yourself, because nobody's perfect. And, even though you may want to think you are. So I made a decision years ago that I was going to quit smoking, and finally quit smoking. I smoked a lot, especially for my Vegas days. And then, I was in an intense business, and which was technology, and I smoked a lot during that. And I just hit that point where I said, this is probably going to really shorten my life. And it was out of control. Now, I realized that I didn't have a moderation gene in me. And I tried several times, and I finally made a resolution that I was going to stop. And the last time I had a cigarette, a cigar, a pipe, anything with tobacco, any which way, you name it, I smoked it. I have pipes, I had cigars, I had cigarettes, you name it, I was, doing it. And I ended and stopped on January 1st, 1985 was the last time I had tobacco, and have been able to, knock on wood, that I have been tobacco free from that point forward. I do have to tell you that it was not an easy step, and in a way that went. So that was one that I stuck to, and I will mention that you need to take it one day at a time, because if you find that you have an addictive personality, and if you do, you should know about it. Lots of people live in denial that they have an addictive personality, that you have to be ever on guard, because it is easy to slip back into bad habits and get into those. So that was one of them that I took that same thing. I had a plan, I had a commitment, I had it written down, and I stuck to it. And there were some white knuckle times, I can tell you that, but I made it through the other side on that one.
Right. And what are some of the steps to building a resolution?
So the first thing is that you should write out a bunch of different resolutions that you want to do. And some of them are probably pretty ridiculous, but the thing you want to do is you kind of like do this brain dump. That's like the first step of it. And then you have to say, okay, which of these are, and I have a 3-step or a 3-level criteria. And what you want to do is say, what is vital? What is important? What is nice to have? And if something is vital, smoking was one that I put in the vital category, then what you do is that you say, okay, this one is vital. Now, what happens is that if you have those 3 criteria and you have built a list, so first thing we have a list. Next thing we put it through a filter, vital, important, nice to have. Pick the ones that are vital. Now, if you ever want to try to quit 2 major things or alter 2 major things at the same time, my prediction, if I could bet on you or against you, if you will, is that you're not going to make it through, because it's too much change. You're not going to do it. Better to focus on one and knock that out than to have like a dozen of them. And what you find out is, and as I have in all of my coaching and working with individual performers, is that almost everybody focuses on the nice to have and not the vital. Always go for the vital. Make sure that you get a vital and you take care of that, and you build it one step at a time and you move it along. And because of that, then you become more successful and you move in the right direction. And maybe one of them is that you're going to improve your business. And if you're going to improve your business, well, no better way to kick off the new year than, of course, to do some study, do some reading. And this is where this comes in, which is most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize a position to win. This is my own copy. You can tell because I have all my little yellow Post-it notes in it. But you can get your very own copy by going to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, other places. You can get a physical copy. You can also get digital copy from Amazon Kindle, Barnes & Noble Nook, and Apple iBooks. You can also go and get another book that we have, which is Remote Work for a Better World, and that's available exclusively on Kindle, and you can go do that. And what I can tell you is that there are some exercises in here which will make it easier for you to make it through and lay out resolutions and think about things you might be able to do. So go check it out. And if you do that, I think that you will find that you'll have a much better chance of making it through and having resolutions that will stick and making that progress that you want to make. If you even set goals such as, I want to have a greater sense of self-awareness, and you deem that that's vital, that means that you're on an ongoing continuous process. And if you do that, then you'll end up with, again, we go out there and we build our list, we build our plan, we lay out our commitments, and do not overcommit yourself, and then you get it done. And then that means this coming year is going to be your best year ever.
All right. And how do you make sure the year doesn't just slip away?
Really interesting how time works. Surprisingly, that people wake up and go, wait a second, I can't believe it's already March, or I can't believe it's already, the end of the year again. Part of that is not nailing down what you need to do today and then focusing on the things that are valuable and important to you. There is an enormous power in saying no to certain things. Now, there's lots of people who have a sense of obligation and what they need to do or not do, but I'm going to tell you that what you want to do is make sure that you understand the power of no. Say no to certain things, say yes to other things, but make sure that you abide by this very simple principle. We get in life what we pursue and what we do. Now, this is a variation from Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale says, we become what we think about. Now, what are you thinking about? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And the reason why it slips away is that we get distracted, we get bored, we go in lots of different directions. And this is why it's important that you work towards disciplining yourself to having that focus. And by doing that, you will not have the world slip away from you, because every single day is that new day that you want to write your life on, and you need to take that energy and time and do just that.
And what are the time increments that you work with?
Well, I always look at the year. And in fact, now that I'm planning for 23, is that I'm looking for the year. I'm looking at what we're going to do. But I always look at other increments of time. So the smallest unit that we're going to look at is, each and every appointment that you make, ask yourself, okay, is this really going to help me get to where I want to go? Sometimes you got to do stuff you don't want to do it. Don't ignore it. Don't put it off. Don't hope it goes away. So what I do is I plan the days, I plan the weeks, I plan the months, the quarters, the year. And what I do is I work on all those different increments, because I found that if you work on the days, work on the weeks, work on the quarters, or work on the months, work on the quarters, work on the year, what you're going to find out is you're going to be much better organized, more aware of it, and get more things done. Lots of times we don't get things done because there's a lot of chatter. We're running from this thing to that thing and pillar to post, back and forth. And that's just an example of not being focused enough to get things done. And part of focusing is, it isn't what you say yes to, but it's what you say no to that will have the biggest impact on what you're going to do.
Right. And so how do you plan the year?
Well, I do a little old school. You can do it any way that you want. It's your life. There is no perfect way. So what I do is, like right now, I have this calendar. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. But this thing goes out through 23 and also includes 24. So I always look out 2 years out in advance, and I start saying, okay, what am I going to be doing on this day? What am I going to be doing on that day? When you start nailing these things down, what you find out is, now sometimes people become overwhelmed. They're like, holy smokes, my life is busy. Maybe your life is busy. I have a very busy life. I plan to get a lot done in my lifetime. And to get a lot of things done, you have to be able to understand what you have time-wise, what you can do at any specific point in time, and how to get better at doing it. If you do not do that, then what will happen is, we talked about time slipping away. That's a problem. But also what you'll do is you'll feel overwhelmed. Once you feel overwhelmed, you become immobilized. Once you become immobilized, you stop. And once you stop, that's bad, because we want to keep moving forward. Action is the key. We have to take action. Now, action isn't just any kind of action, but action is making sure we're taking action in the direction of the goals that we want to achieve. So my suggestion to you is take out and go out and figure out how you want to do it. Now, by the way, I am a time calendar kind of guy. So I have 2 calendars in my office. Yes, I have one on the computer. Problem with the computer is I don't get to see it. It doesn't pop out. I mean, I guess you could have it on a separate monitor or something. And yes, we use that for keeping track of my life. But I like to see the month. I like to see the year at a glance. And then, of course, I have 2 years that I carry with me at all times. So I can open up to a date and say, okay, what am I doing on November 5th, 2024? Don't have anything on there now. Maybe I start figuring out what I'm going to do. So that's what I do. I plan out the year. And I work on a 2-year calendar. Always helps me get more done in a year because life is just that way. You want to get a lot of things done. You got to make sure that you got your headspace working the right way.
All right. And if you're an entrepreneur in business, sales, or marketing, what are things you can do to make 2023 better?
Very specific things that you can do is, first off, we can all get upset about the way the world is operating. The world is not going to operate to your standards, to my standards. I mean, I wish I could just say, yes, it's got to work the way I want it to work and we're done. So unless you want to go out and take a wooden staff and go stand in your front yard and raise your hands to the sky and say, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are always looking at your strengths and weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, and using that kind of analysis and making sure that you're progressing forward to these goals. Life is all about achieving worthwhile goals and considerable goals. If you're in business, look at where you've started at. I have worked with so many hundreds now to thousands of coaching clients, and they will all say to me, especially if they're in sales, entrepreneurs, whatever, and they fall in love with numbers. So if you just did $100,000 a year or not, but everybody goes, well, I want to do 100K. Great. Okay. So now let's break down what that looks like. Let's look at what needs to happen every single day. And sometimes that's not a realistic goal. Now, I know that people want to shoot for the stars. People want to have, expectations go through the roof. Great. Do that. But what I want you to do is have multiple goals, because multiple goals are more achievable. So it's how many sales calls, how many meetings, how many things do you have to work on, how much has to take place, what needs to happen. This weekly, almost weekly, YouTube show started because, my business partner, co-conspirator, Gabe Batista, said, hey, you want to get out there, you're going to have to start putting this stuff on YouTube. It's going to be slow. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. We needed to find a format. Sandra is nice enough to ask the questions. This did not happen because I just said, magic wand, and away it happened. So you have to understand what that means, what that commitment is, what the time associated with it is, and you have to keep getting better. And you have to keep driving this thing forward. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at 23 could be a very rough year. Interest rates are up. Business is a little bit topsy-turvy. But those are no excuses for you not to at least make an attempt to grow. And I always say to somebody 3 things. Number 1, charge 15% more. Number 2, project that you're going to do 50% more business and try to stick to that. And number 3 is very much enjoy the journey along the way, because the journey is what you got. If you ever think it's a destination, if you ever think I'm going to show up at the end and I'm going to be happy and something's going to magically happen, all I can tell you is that you will probably be disappointed, because you'll get there and you'll hit that goal, whatever that goal is. I just did, whatever XXX in sales or XXX in deals, or I got this product out the door, service got launched and people love what I'm doing. When you get to that point, what will happen is that you'll sit there and there'll be a sense of loss if you did not enjoy the journey, if you did not understand how this was going to go on, because what you're going to say to yourself is, wait a second, where's the band? How come there's no, big ribbons and all of that? If you want all those things, you're going to have to put them in place, because that's the point of life. You are in charge. You're driving your own bus. You're going to go where you want to go. So my suggestion to you is to make 2023, your best year ever. It doesn't matter how good or bad last year was. You want to focus on making this your best year ever. And that happens by taking each and every day and making it just a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Do that, and you're going to have a great and happy new year. And this is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Song, and for myself and the ever lovely Sandra, we wish you a spectacular 23. Go out and have a great time. And it's your life. You're driving the bus. Go to the destination that you want to. And if you do that, you will have achieved what you've always wanted to achieve, which is the success that you desire. So happy new year to each and every one of you.